Hello everyone, it's Will. Just a few hours ago, a new leak list dropped from our favorite Chinese player. This list isn't as long as some others, only having 6 vehicles on it. But there are a couple pretty interesting additions coming, and I think a lot of you will really like them. There's one aspect that will be a whole new mechanic for the game, so it will be interesting to see how it works, and just how well it performs. It won't be something that changes the game, but it's definitely pretty cool. Also, before I get started, if you guys would like to join my Discord, the link is in the description. I always try to make sure any lists or news are posted there as soon as I know about it. If you enjoy the video, please make sure to like and subscribe as well. Here is the leak list for those wondering, and I did confirm it came from his Baidu account, so it isn't some fake that someone made like this loadout screen for the Hornet that got passed around the other day. Though, to be fair, it is a pretty good fake. But first, one of the most interesting additions is this F-18. This list just says that it is the F-18 without giving a specific variant. However, I would say with a pretty strong certainty that it will be the FA-18C. I see no reason for them to add the FA-18A right now, since it wouldn't be as hyped up or as good as the C would be. That's not to say that the FA-18C will be particularly amazing, but in comparison, it will be much better. There is also the possibility that it may go to other nations as well. I think ultimately the Hornet will be added to other nations that could get it. Not that I really agree, but that's just what Gaijin has been doing. My guess is that the US will be getting the Hornet this coming update, which should be next month in March, and other nations like Germany and Sweden will get it later. Now, for the FA-18C itself, it has two F404 GE 402 engines. These produce 49 kilonewtons of dry thrust each, and 79 kilonewtons of wet thrust each. This will give it a thrust to weight of just under 1. It will also get an HMD just like the F-16C and F-15C in-game. It also has the AN/APG-73, which is very similar to the AN/APG-70 found on the F-15E we already have in-game. This will mean it has a pretty strong and capable radar, which is very helpful with all the missiles it can carry. It has the same built-in 20mm Vulcan that has been used since the beginning of time, with 578 rounds. As for air-to-air missiles, it can carry up to 12 at the same time. You can carry up to 10 AMRAAMs at a time, alongside 2 wingtip AIM-9s. 8 of those AMRAAMs go under the wings on double racks, while the last 2 go on the fuselage. If you want, you can swap out some of those AMRAAMs under the wings for more sidewinders, though the best loadout is probably the 10 and 2 configuration I already mentioned. It will most likely get the AIM-120A or the B, though it could get the C in the future if Gaijin feels like it. When fully loaded, you will run into the issue that the Hornet becomes a fat piece of shit, so your best option is probably to climb up pretty quickly and fire off a good portion of your missiles. If you're flying it in sim, I recommend staying further back from the enemy, using the range of your missiles to joust the enemy until you're much lighter. Then you'll have a much better time fighting people close in. It's fairly good in both 1 and 2 circle fights, but don't expect to do much against something like a Eurofighter or a Rafale. It'll be fairly average in terms of flight performance where it will sit. Not great, but not terrible either. It will also be able to carry a fair amount of ground ordnance. It can carry the AGM-65, AGM-84D, AGM-84K, AGM-84H, as well as JDAMs and laser-guided bombs, just to name a few things. So it should be a pretty good cast aircraft to pair with the F-15E, especially if it gets the SLAM ER. Overall, I think I will enjoy the Hornet a lot. I also wanted to mention that in Gaijin's community manager disclosures the other day, they did tease the Hornet for this next update, which you can see here. We should be hearing a bit more about it soon though, since the dev vlog should start within the next couple of weeks. The next vehicle is the Su-30SM for Russia. This plane has something entirely new to aircraft in the game, being thrust vectoring. It is a newer variant of the Su-30, so it will be one of the newest planes in-game. It has very similar engines to the Su-27SM we have in-game, with 2 AL-31FP engines. These produce about 74 kilonewtons of dry thrust each, and about 123 kilonewtons of wet thrust each. These engines have 2D thrust capability, meaning that they can move up and down, but not left to right. Along with the canards, this will greatly improve its low-speed maneuverability, though it does have the cost of being heavier than the Su-27SM, which will degrade its overall flight performance a bit. It does have an HMD, along with what should be an improved radar over the Su-27SM, though it's a little hard to tell how much better. It has the N011M radar, which seems to be a piece of radar, at least from what I can tell. If this is the case, then it should have a much better radar than the Su-27SM or even the MiG-29 SMT, which will be an answer to the prayers that Russian mains have been making for a while. The N011M has a max detection range of 400 kilometers and a tracking range of about 200 kilometers. This will be very nice to see, especially with a pretty capable plane. In terms of weapons, it has the standard 30mm gun and can take a variety of other weapons. As for air-to-air missiles, it can take the R-27 family, the R-73, the R-77, R-77-1, and the R-77M. It should also be able to take 12 missiles total, which will be pretty nice. It can also carry a good amount of air-to-ground weapons like the KH-39, KH-59, KH-31, CAB-500, and CAB-1500 and their variants. This should be a good alternative to the Su-27SM in ground battles, since it should be able to carry just as much ground Hornets. I do think the thrust vectoring will be pretty cool, though at the same time, I also don't think it will be as useful in RB. It will probably be more useful in sim battles where you can have more dogfights, but you will still burn pretty much all your energy using it. This will be something that is like a last resort to use. But overall, this should be a pretty interesting and cool plane to see in the game. The next vehicle is the Eurocopter Tiger HAC for France. This was a Eurocopter that was mainly focused on anti-tank capabilities. Unfortunately, it never made it out of development, but it should be coming as a squadron vehicle. It is fairly similar to all the other Tigers, so there won't be a whole lot to talk about here. It can get Mistrals as self-defense and can carry 20mm and 50 cal gun pods. It can also carry Sneb and Mighty Mouse rockets alongside the Trigot ATGM, also known as the PARS on the German UHT. This should be a fairly interesting squadron vehicle and should be decent as well with the fire and forget missiles. Next, we have our first tank on the list, being the 2S-19 for Russia. This is just a basic self-propelled howitzer, so yet another derp artillery gun. It has a 155mm howitzer along with a 50 cal on the roof. It seems to have an autoloader with a reload rate of about 8.5 seconds or so. There isn't anything particularly notable about this, since it will just be pretty similar to all the other howitzers we have in game right now. The next vehicle is just completely copy and paste, being the C1 Ariecte for Italy. The only difference is it gets a camouflage net like the premium Leopard 2A4 that Germany got a while ago. The Ariecte is pretty bad, so unless you're already able to do well in it, I wouldn't suggest picking it up. At 11.7, I would much rather pay for the Centauro RGO over an MBT that has paper-thin armor and can be lull-penned by anything. It just won't be very great in my opinion. Next, we have the Strasbourg battleship for France. This will be an event vehicle, likely the next one, seeing as though the current event is a plane and the last one was a tank. The Strasbourg was the last ship in the Dunkirk class of battleships. It has 8 330mm guns across 2 turrets in its front as its main armament. It also has 16 130mm guns, 8 37mm guns, and 32 13.2mm anti-air guns. This will be very similar to the Dunkirk with just a bit better armor. The last vehicle on this list is the HMS Warspite for the UK. This could come in a few different ways since it has multiple refits. So I'll just go over the latest refit since that's what seems to be most likely. It has 8 15-inch guns across 4 turrets for its main guns. The other weapons it has include 6-inch guns, 4 21-inch torpedo tubes, 4 octuple 40mm guns, as well as a boatload of other AA. So this battleship should be very well defended against planes. Its guns should also be pretty good, and its armor is fairly decent as well. I think I'm most excited for the Hornet and the Su-30SM, though of course I mostly play air battles, so that would make sense. It will be interesting to see what weapons are given to the Hornet, and how well the thrust vectoring on the Su-30SM works. Overall, despite this list being shorter than others, I think it still has some pretty cool stuff. As always, if you guys have any questions, please drop a comment down below. Also, if you enjoyed the video, please make sure to like and subscribe, it'll help me out a ton.